Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball. We have an exciting episode that I don't think we expected before the season because Illinois all of a sudden is a 4-0 team that is ranked inside the top 20. And this game is now a night game, and James Franklin is pretty much calling for a whiteout. I think in the future, if they know they're not going to get Ohio State or Michigan at night, they might be better off just kind of playing the whiteout by ear and waiting to see what game's going to be what and who ends up being good during the season, because I think they might have flipped it from Washington to this game if they had known. So something to keep in mind there. Penn State beat
But hold on, can they? Hey,
56-0 last week. Honestly, a game. What's up?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
So why can't they just have another whiteout? Like there was some talk about like he wants the whiteout energy, but like just say it's a second whiteout. That nobody sponsors the whiteout, right?
No, that's true.
Yeah, so that's dumb.
I don't know.
Like,
people cry about it.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. People cry about it like losing its shine and stuff. I don't know.
Bullshit.
To me, it's
like,
not a big deal one way or the other.
No, and this should be a whiteout. And Washington, you're right, probably shouldn't be. But at the same time, like, who cares? I don't know. It makes people happy. Just try to make people happy.
Yeah.
And it helps them win games.
I don't know. I don't see a problem with it either way. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, good game to use it on if you're going to use it. So why not? But yeah, Kent State last week, 56-0. It was only 7-0, 22 minutes in the game. They had a really bad turnover. They only had a couple possessions, but it looked ugly for the first 1/3 of the game, and then the next 2/3 were about as good as you could have asked for. So positive there. Injuries, I guess, not piling up bad, but Andrew Rapollet is probably out for the year. It looks like Winston's out for the year. And Cam Wallace, the third-string running back, suffered what looked like a pretty nasty injury to both his legs at the end of the game last week. So kind of 3 games in, and you've lost someone for the year in all 3 games. So that's not exactly a good trend. We're looking for a negative, I guess, this season. That's kind of the negative.
Yeah, and Kevin Winston was walking normally, though, too, right? Like, he was out there, and he didn't look super injured. So I don't know what people are speculating what his injury is, and it's unfortunate that it's it's unfortunate anyway, but he looks okay, but I guess he's going to be out, like you said. So that's too bad. That's the biggest loss. But also, maybe having that happen early when it did gives some of the other safeties time to catch up a little bit too. And you're never going to replace him, but you got to get other guys to have reps just to have more of the rotation. And they did that this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely better that you got, obviously now all of a sudden Illinois is the meat of the schedule, but you had a bye week in there too to get these guys ready, and then you had Kent State, which is more or less another bye week. So, you've kind of had almost 3 weeks now to get these guys ready for Big Ten play. So, yeah, the earlier injuries happen. Obviously, you don't want them to happen, but the earlier the better in this case. So, yeah, that is the one positive to take out of that situation. Wanted to kind of turn the page to Illinois full-time. Pull this up here. But yeah, so Penn State, up to an 18.5-point favorite in this game, despite Illinois being the number 19 team in the country. And Luke Altmaier, you remember when we did the crossover Illinois podcast last year, and like we were
Yeah.
hyping up Altmaier, and then he threw like 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, he's kind of back to that hype. I mean, completion percentage close to 75%. Averaging well over about 220 yards a game and 10 touchdowns through 4 games. I mean, those are pretty good numbers for an Illinois quarterback known as a passing attack team. I mean, you could see kind of what they've done this season. I don't even know what school that is. Eastern Illinois, I guess. Beat them 45-0. Slipped by Kansas. Then, handily beat Central Michigan and then beat Nebraska in overtime in what was honestly a really good game. Got to watch that game. Super interesting game. But, they went on the road to Nebraska and won, and that was impressive. And now they have another kind of night home or a night away game in a hostile environment. So it's not something they haven't seen yet this season, which I'll give them, some props there. But for Penn State, I mean, this is a game you gotta have. You want to get a ranked win on that schedule or on that record, and a setback here with. I know USC lost to Michigan, but they still look good, and obviously Ohio State looks like a top 3 team in the country. Really don't want to drop this one because it leaves you literally no room for error going forward.
Correct, and this gives you an opportunity to get a surprising win against a ranked team that you didn't expect going into it, right? So you expected this to be sort of a cakewalk earlier in the year, but now they're ranked, so it gives a little more credibility to the resume going forward, assuming that they do win. Now, with that, I did not watch a lot of the Illinois games thus far, but just looking at the stats, there's nothing that really stands out that they're good at in the Big Ten besides turnovers. They're generating a lot of turnovers. They have a nearly +2 turnovers per game. But what else do they do? Yeah, Luke Altmaier is completing a lot of passes, but they're pretty short. I think he was bottom third of the league in yards per attempt. So they're not really pushing the ball downfield that much. So what do they do that's good?
Yeah, I think they're just playing smart, not trying to put the ball in harm's way is the best way to put it. I'm trying to get a box score here from this game. I'm trying to see how much of this offense came in this game, and quite a lot of it actually. 4 of Altmaier's 10 touchdowns in this game against Eastern Illinois, who I quite frankly never heard of before I just clicked on this page. So yeah, I mean, it's something to keep take into account. I think Nebraska is also a scrappy team, so just going on the road to beat them, I'll give them some props there. And you look at the rest of the schedule with the way they've played so far, they could finish the year ranked at 9-3. I don't think 9-3 is really out of the realm of possibility. See the schedule on the left side here. I mean, you drop Penn State, you should beat Purdue. I mean, you get Michigan at home, but Illinois has never been a hostile place to play, and then you go to Oregon, you're going to lose that. But then the last 4 games, at Rutgers could be kind of tough. Rutgers has been a solid team this year.
Rutgers looks good.
Yeah. But I mean, 9-3 is not out of the realm of possibility with this Illinois team.
What are the rest though? I can't see. They have Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan State.
Yeah, I can't see that.
So no, I can now. Sorry. But yeah, they don't get even Indiana this year, who's looking pretty good too, and they avoid. They avoid USC and Ohio State. So good for them. But I don't know. This always happens, right? Early in the year where Nebraska got a lot of love because they pounded Colorado. Colorado sucks,
right?
But then they get ranked, and then Illinois beats them. So now Illinois is ranked, and Nebraska's not ranked anymore. So it's there's a lot of jockeying in that kind of 20 to 25 range that you're always going to get, and I don't know if anybody knows who deserves what yet, right? And even Penn State, for that matter, are they a top 10 team? We don't know. This week will go somewhat to determine that, but also is Penn State as good as we think? Is Illinois as good as people think? I don't know. It's too early to really make a lot of definitive arguments one way or the other, but I just know that they're statistically against kind of weak defenses and not great offenses are not doing much. So
yeah,
besides generating turnovers.
The point you brought up about like how good is everyone, I think West Virginia is not as good as we thought.
They stink.
Blew that game to Pitt, and then they barely beat Kansas at home. I think Bowling Green is better than we thought. They went down to A&M and gave Texas A&M a good run for their money. So I think they're just they're a scrappy Bowling Green or MAC team. So I mean, Kent State's Kent State. That team is legitimately horrible. Penn State won this game 56-0, but if you look at the yards difference, that game probably should have been 84-0, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was the largest yards. I think they said that was the largest yards differential in a Penn State game or in all of college football in 20 years.
Yeah, it was. So I mean,
something like that.
It was literally. Yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't look as sharp early, but man, once they got going, they got going. I think it kind of helped that Kent State ended up on their third-string quarterback by halftime.
Oh my God! And the injuries came out for the two guys. The one had his hip, I think, dislocated hip.
Yeah, he broke his hip or something. Yeah.
And the other dude tore his Achilles. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Gotta feel bad for those. That's terrible. But
especially you gotta think third string at Kent State is probably like as good as the high school kid down the street right now. You know what I mean? Like that's brutal for them. But
but they were like, we knew that's the worst team in FBS, and that's what we thought going in. I mean, they got pounded by Tennessee. They somehow, I think they scored like 20 points on Pitt or something like that. So that's funny. But they stink. And if we were talking about this in the group chat beforehand, like Penn State needed to win that game by the spread or by the. I said that they would hit the over under by themselves, which was 55.5, and they did. And like that's how you need to put it on teams. And even when the second string was in and Cam Wallace was in and stuff, they still kept scoring, and I'm happy to see them do that and not let up. Even in the last minute and a half, I think they scored or something.
Yeah, it's good to prepare backups because you think about the last time Illinois came to Penn State, 2021. Should Sean Clifford have played in that game? But the truth is, they didn't have a backup prepared, so an injured Sean Clifford had to play in that game, and it went terrible. So, Franklin's learned a lot of lessons from that season, that 2021 season, that one being chief among them, how important it is to have backup quarterbacks ready to play. It's kind of
now we have two. We have Tyler Warren, who's 1 for 1 with a touchdown. So there's a backup quarterback competition.
I know. In the past few years, we've seen a lot of great tight ends. Just in short-term memory, Gesicki, Freiermuth, Johnson, Strange. But Tyler Warren is on pace to have the best year by a Penn State tight end I've ever seen. Just super impressive stuff. Yeah, super impressive stuff what he's doing. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, he's very much like Brock Bowers last year. He's just so athletic. He can do everything. He blocks well. He catches. He runs after the catch. He's even lining up in the Wildcat now and doing things, which is a pretty good wrinkle. And I would like to talk about Andy Kotelnicki and all the excellent things that he does. Ty Warren, thankfully he came back, and he's amazing in a very deep position group actually for Penn State. So
So actually, let's talk about Andy Kotelnicki a little bit, because you remember last year Penn State went to Illinois, and Drew Aller looked pretty good through the first 2 or 3, how many games that was before they went on the road to Illinois, and then that was the first time he looked rough. So now we're kind of in the same situation again. He looked pretty good in the first 3 games, but hasn't played any fantastic defenses. Now he faces a scrappy, traditional Big Ten West Illinois team that is going to be tough on defense. And this is where we're going to see, I think, the difference between Mike Yurcich and Andy Kotelnicki, because how much better does Drew Aller look this time around against Illinois? I know it's at home and it's at night,
That's a good.
but this to me is going to be a nice tape measure for AK versus what we saw last year.
I think that's a good analysis, and I think we're all going to be pleasantly surprised. I mean, if you just look at the variety of formations, the variety of spreading the ball around to different players, everything looks, on one hand, it's way more complicated than anything that Yurcich did last year, or at least it appears that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more motions. There seems to be a lot more variety in the formations and the personnel. But at the same time, like, they are executing it in a much more effortless fashion. Like last year, I feel like even the simple stuff, it just looked hard. Everything looked difficult for getting receivers open, and maybe that was some of the personnel and some of the attitude that we had in the room of receivers. But like, everything looked difficult for Drew Aller last year. This year, oh my God, everything looks so easy, right? The flow of this offense is night and day compared to what it was. And if you watch the Coach Caduti video this week, he talked about all these formations like the Wildcat with Tyler Warren, like the kind of jet motion that has the tight end down the seam, and how like these are just setting up so many different options going forward in the year. And like, we never talked about that shit with Mike Yurcich, right? Like there was no forethought, it seemed like, beyond one series. And even that, like, when they did have a plan, he didn't always execute it either. As per we heard after Michigan. So like, this dude's a genius, I think. And I'm so happy he's on the team.
Yeah, I want to see how these wide receivers look too against a competent secondary. Because as we found out, West Virginia's secondary was just awful. Kent State doesn't really count. Bowling Green they were decent. They gave them some trouble. I want to see how these receivers play. Like, I know Warren, Dinkins are going to be fine. Singleton looks explosive again, like he's going to get his. It's just really, can guys like Omari Evans replicate what they do against Kent State against Big Ten teams? That to me is like my big question with the offense heading into this week is, can guys like Omari Evans and Trey Wallace be explosive against an above average? I'm going to call them above average because they're 4-0 and ranked, an above average team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's a good point about Omari Evans, because, he's running wide open against Kent State, and has a push off that doesn't get called against West Virginia. So he's getting shots, but they're coming maybe a little more easily than they should. So yeah, I will be curious to see how he does. Liam Clifford came on pretty hot this week, but same thing, right? Is that just a fluke against crap competition? A lot of pass catchers this week, and I would like to see that continue. Trey Wallace, since the first game, been a little more quiet. I want to see him come back, but they haven't really needed him either. So is that a function of trying to get everybody else more involved? But he is like,
and I think keeping him healthy, because it's been a problem in the past.
Yeah.
So that we'll see. Yeah. Quickly, defense. So the starting group has been pretty good. The backup linebackers are a little sketchy. But my concern is, so they got to Kent State last week, the pass rush. The first 2 weeks they had problems with it. And that's because, one, I think Garrett Green is one of the more athletic quarterbacks they're going to face. That guy just got out of a lot of things. But Bowling Green came with a game plan of these quick, passes, intermediate passes, a lot of man-to-man coverage, rub routes, trying to get guys off of guys, slants in the flat, trying to eliminate the pass rush, make guys make tackles in space. You brought up earlier about Altmaier's like yards per attempt and how he's not towards the top of these lists because it's a lot of short passes. The thing that concerns me now is Illinois going to try to replicate what Bowling Green did, and Illinois has more talent than Bowling Green. So that's the thing that concerns me is the pass rush going to show up this week?
Yeah, sorry. I had to flip off some lady because she wouldn't let me merge. Like, what's wrong with people, man? Anyway, sorry. I think Brett Bielema he's a smart coach, right? So I think he saw what worked against for Bowling Green against Penn State, and yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's gonna try to replicate it as best he can. And like if you look back to Illinois in 2021, I guess, right, the bad year. Same thing. It's just like, shorten the game, beat the crap out of us, put 15 guys on the line, and just run the ball for 3 yards or whatever. And the offense he has is more dynamic now, so it can probably do more things than that this year. And what Bowling Green did is an excellent example of what potentially he could do. But I am hoping that Bowling Green was a little bit of a fluke and Tom Allen figured stuff out. I am not nearly smart enough or educated enough to understand defensively what schemes are different now, things, and just the defense is going to take a step forward rather than back to where they were against Bowling Green this week.
Yeah, hopefully that was just a good learning experience, and it happened against a team like Bowling Green where they can still slip by and then adjust from it and have 3 weeks between games. Because I think if Illinois came in with that game plan and Bowling Green didn't, there's a pretty good chance they could lose. But now that they've seen something like that, I think that definitely does help them.
The good thing
West
though,
Virginia
Illinois
tried to be a run
not
first
averaging.
team.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just
There
going to
must
say,
be a
like,
delay.
West Virginia tried to be a run first team. It didn't really work. Yeah. Penn State hasn't really faced run first team yet. So now, can Illinois try to become that? Because that's how they beat Penn State in 2021. Just slam the ball down them 1,000 times with big linemen. So I'm curious what route they go. Do they try to be that physical team again, melt the clock, limit possessions? Or are they going to do this new Illinois thing all of a sudden where Luke Altmaier has 10 touchdowns through 4 games?
Yeah. So I forget the exact stat, but I want to say they're averaging like 3.5 yards a carry in their rushing attack, which is not very good, right? So, and maybe that's wrong, but they're again in the bottom third or so of the Big Ten in rushing yards per attempt. So, like, I don't know if they can be that kind of bully rush first team. I know they probably want to, because that worked against Penn State in 2021, but I don't know that they are physically capable of now because the defenses that they played against are not as good as Penn State's defense, and they haven't had success rushing yet. So they might have to go towards a more Luke Altmaier focused offense, even though they might not want to, because then you give the Penn State offense more opportunities, and that has been very explosive, right? Where in 2021, Sean Clifford injury aside, that was a pretty short game, and it turned very physical and very low scoring.
Yeah. All right, so line is up to 18.5. Do you think Penn State covers that? Because I don't know if they do.
I think Penn State is going to fucking smash Illinois. I think it's going to be like, what was the Minnesota?
That was 45-17, I think.
All right. What was the Minnesota Whiteout year? 2022?
Yeah, and that game was 45-17 or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be that because it's a very similar situation, I think, in terms of Minnesota wasn't. I don't think they were ranked, but people had a lot of hopes for them. I don't know. There's some aspect of revenge, even though last year Penn State beat Illinois. It's still that last time at Beaver Stadium thing is just a debacle, unlike any other.
Right.
And last year against Iowa, kind of the same thing, right? Like it was this hyped early season game. Penn State kicked their ass. I think it's like, I'm going to say 35-10.
Okay. Yeah, that would definitely do it. Yeah, I was in like the 30 to 14, like 31 to 17 range. Like, I think they still handily win. I just think we're talking about almost 19 points now. lot to cover against, a ranked team early in the year. We'll see, though. I think we're going to learn a lot about Illinois, I think. I don't know how much we're going to learn about Penn State. I think we're going to either find out, though, if Illinois is actually legit or not. I think that's a big thing this week that I think we'll learn more about. I think Penn State, you'll learn about Penn State this week, but long term, I don't think it'll show you as much about who they are. Like, if they win, are they, all of a sudden a top 5 team? I don't think that.
No,
so,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And like this, however they do against Illinois does not portend success against Ohio State or whatever, right? Because that's just a different beast entirely.
Right.
But at the same time, like, we sometimes struggle. Penn State sometimes struggles with ranked opponents, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always that fear factor that goes into that. But I also wonder what the last time they've had a ranked opponent where they were a 19-point favorite or 18-point favorite or whatever. So that doesn't happen very often. If this team comes out with the attitude,
that's a good point. This is a large line for a ranked matchup.
Yeah. If they come out with the attitude that they are better than Illinois,
well, I'm trying to think like kind of a similar case.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, in a similar situation, I guess, would be like the Iowa game last year, and I think the line in that game was like 12 points last year against Iowa. In this, a similar game, early season whiteout, a ranked team, but a team you're playing that not everyone knows a lot about. So, we'll see. That was only 12, I think 10 to 12 points. This is getting close to 19, so big difference there. So yeah, we're gonna see.
And that Iowa team had Iowa always has a top 5 to 10 defense in the country, right? So you're going to be more fearful about that. And like as a fan going into that game, you're more fearful. And a couple of early turnovers kind of derailed any hope that Iowa had to generate any offense whatsoever. Like that fear factor does not exist in this game. And like I know it doesn't matter what I think or what any of the fans think, but like Illinois just has not shown to be elite at any one thing in a way that should scare Penn State players, coaches, or fans. Yeah, let's say it like that.
Yeah, and I kind of tweeted this. It was like Illinois looks good, but if top 10 Penn State at home under the lights loses to them, then it wasn't meant to be anyway. This team wasn't what we thought it could be, and that's the truth to me. Like, a win is going to be a win in this situation. I feel like just because it's a ranked team. Obviously, I think you'd like to win by more than a touchdown, but to me, it's just Penn State does have more to lose than gain in this game, but at the same time, you shouldn't have that much pressure on you in this situation. You're a heavy favorite. You're at home. You've been here before. You've played under the lights a lot. This Illinois team, I know they had the kind of the primetime slot on, what was that, Thursday night, Friday night against Nebraska. They haven't been in this situation a lot where there's that, number next to the name, being ranked and having expectations. Penn State and, Drew Aller have had those expectations. So I think that definitely bodes well for Penn State too. So yeah, like I think Illinois is going to give them fits at times in this game. There's going to be some plays that drive us nuts, but I think Penn State does comfortably win this game by at least 10 to 13 points, if not more. Obviously, you're going for a little more, but I just think that if next time we meet, we're talking about now what Penn State has to do to stay alive for the playoff. If they lose this, then we shouldn't even be talking about the playoff.
Yeah, that's true. That's like, yeah. I mean, if they win convincingly, then you're looking at the way I know USC came back, but they still didn't manage to pull it out. Then if Penn State wins convincingly here, then really the huge challenge is really Ohio State, right? And they should realistically go 11-1 if we learn that they are who we think they are and stuff. Because
right,
I don't know. I was surprised to see USC offense struggle so much in the first half of that game. But this is like real 2005 kind of thing, though, right? That was the last time I think Penn State played Iowa or Illinois as a ranked team at home. Is that true?
I think it was. No, it was 2000. Was it 2005? Man, it was somewhere in those mid 2000s, like 07, 07 maybe. It might have been 07.
Okay.
There's a year in there where Illinois beat Penn State, like, yeah. So, I don't know. There is a year in there though where Illinois came into Penn State and won. It was like 38-24, something like that. It was one of those mid 2000s years. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for this one. We'll be back next week at some point, hopefully talking about a win. Because if we're not, I don't know what the hell we're gonna talk about then. Because we're gonna have some problems. But that's gonna do it for this one.
Don't be negative.
What?
They're gonna win. They're gonna win.
All right. I'm actually Nate. I'm actually watching.
It's just a matter of if you want to.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually watching the game with an old friend of ours this weekend. Any guesses?
Dylan.
No. I'm not going to the game, if that helps.
I don't know. Who?
Jesse Del Valle.
Oh, wow. That's fun. Yeah, that's cool.
He's going to be in Philly. I was like, yeah, so I hit him up. So we're going to go to Tradesman's where all the Penn State people go. They sell the NIL beer there in Center City. It's quite interesting.
Okay, so I hope you buy a lot of
go hit that. I'll watch the game. Yeah, hopefully win. But
speaking of people like that, how is Dom DeLuca hurt or what?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Okay, because he walked off the field the other day with like a brace on his thumb and no pads on. So.
No, I'm not sure, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
I haven't heard anything about that actually, so I don't know. Guess we'll see on
when you mentioned Jesse Del Valle, it made me think of Dom DeLuca for some reason.
For some reason, I wonder why. Dear God.
Anyway.
All right. Well,
hey, have fun. It's gonna be great. They're gonna win. I'm going to Disney World, so it's my daughter's 17th birthday. So
nice.
I hope to get back to the hotel by 7:30 to watch. So
should be fun.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Have a good one.
All right. We'll be back next week.